Do I even need to say it? Do I need to introduce what this day of the week is? I think you already know. But more importantly, we're gonna have two of those this week because apparently tomorrow, when they do the special preview live stream to show the first episode of overdress early, we're also gonna get more news, including the Dark States overtrigger and a important support unit for Violence Bruce. But anyway, hello. Today we're gonna do the usual thing for the overdress news where we recap stuff from the past week and also talk about today's reveals as well. Today was the one I was most hyped for. I'm still feeling pretty damn hyped about it, although I've quite a few things to say in the discussion. Also, as we begin, I want to also let you know that if you want to pick up any overdress product, whether it's the starter decks or a booster set, or even like a special set with the booster box and the starter decks together, you can go to parkcage.com and use discount code DifferentFight for a 5% discount at checkout. It supports the channel, it helps me out as well, so if you are in Europe or you want to buy from Europe, then there you go. Also, because I'm not sure if I've thanked them already, I want to thank this month's channel members as well. So thank you to Crowned Clown, Very Flores, Platinum Wolf 2009, Christian, Kyra's Darkblade, Carrier Barger, Creeper66, Arcana Master, Tristan H, Jan Fish, Bradley Dyson, Louis De Leon, and Martinich67. Thank you so much for supporting the channel and putting my community on your back, honestly. I've been raising the amount of like perks and stuff that the channel members get as well. As you guys might know, we've started doing remote fight tournaments now for all Twitch subs and YouTube channel members, so you get free signups for that. And then starting from next month, there will be prizes attached, such as overdress start decks, so you can look forward to those. There'll be generally ones per month per format, so one for V Premium, one for Premium, one for Overdress Standard, and but I mean Overdress will only be from May onward. On top of that, there's also exclusive streams on my Discord as well for the Twitch subs and the YouTube channel members, so if you want more other bonuses and also being able to decide some things with my videos, the channel members get to do that as well. So yeah, as usual, I'm not sure if I already thanked them. If not, I feel like I forgot at some point, so I'd rather say it twice than not say it at all. So let's recap. First things first, we got an order for Dark States. This one was the other build for Dark States that isn't Violence Bruce, and the name of the card is Crawl on the Ground Lowly Creatures, and it's a pretty cool order. It's a grade 3, counterblast 1, you soul charge 1 and choose one of your units, and for every 5 cards in your soul you get power plus 10k on that unit, and then if you have 10 or more soul you draw an extra card as well. This is pretty good because CB1 for a massive power addition, because for every 5 that means like plus 20k, which is really strong to actually push for game potentially, or just like, you know, creating columns that ask for more than 15k shield per attack. That's going to be super easy with this card, and even then counterblast 1 to draw 1 is already amazing, so that extra power on top of that is really good. As I said before, I like seeing a lot of these card draw effects that help you dig through your deck and find more pieces, and they are just sprinkling orders everywhere as well, which I'm really happy to see. Then they also got a grade 1, which is basically a Pale Moon-esque unit, which is Direful Doll Shimon. So when she boosts, if you have 5 or more cards in your soul, you can counterblast 1, and if you do and your opponent would guard, they have to call 2 cards from hand at the same time, so basically a battle door effect. Counterblast 1 might be a little bit difficult now because, you know, counterblasting 1 to draw a card is one thing, counterblasting 1 for a battle door effect is another, right? Battle door effects are pretty good when they're like for every battle or for like the entire turn, but when it's for just one battle, it's like, sure, in early V era that was something, and especially when it's on the Vanguard circle, that definitely is quite some pressure, but otherwise you're just ripping out an extra card from their hand for counterblast 1, so you always have to see, again, some builds might use a lot of counterblast, some builds might not, so you're gonna have to weigh those kind of like two things against each other and see whether it's worth it or not. But overall, it's a really interesting card, and it's cool to see some kind of guard restrictions already floating around. Then we got some cool Brandt Gate cards. We got the order, which says Causality Goes Crazy As I Will It. So this one is the grade 1 that we found out today from the other Brandt Gate deck, the Orfist one. And so this one is very simple. It's a grade 2 order that says you Soul Blast 1 to give your Vanguard plus 10k until end of turn. It's nothing too crazy, and we saw this and we were just like, is this second deck going to be like DP where you just like power up and like based on power thresholds you like do certain other things? And it's definitely not, so I'm not really sure where they're going with this order. I guess it's good for like pushing numbers, but again, you have to like go away from your regular grade ratio and reducing your like guard numbers in order to play orders like this. So it's interesting. The art is pretty cool, and I definitely like the whole like aesthetic that this deck has, very much so, by the way, but it definitely feels like it doesn't really accomplish that much, so we're gonna see if they show more support for that deck very soon or not. However, there is of course Brandt Gate support for the prison mechanic as well. We have Grappler Fairtigar, I want to say Fairtigar, I think is probably the way you pronounce it. His lore refers to blouse actually, which is pretty cool, but his effect is a rearguard circle effect, Soul Blast 1, he gets plus 2k, and then you put one of your opponent's front row rearguards into your prison. So this is nice because he turns himself into a 15k attacker, so with an AK boost that's 23, it asks for the 15k shield that you want to be asking for all the time, and on top of that, this immediately replaces that starter deck grade 3 that says like on hit, put 2 things into prison. It's like, That card is nice hit pressure and everything to like rip out cards from their hand, you know, to make them guard and everything, but this kind of confirmed Soul Blast 1 to imprison something is much nicer, because on top of that, it also just means that you're using your resources wisely. And I like the fact that Brandt Gate feels like the one like nation so far that doesn't struggle with resources. They Counter Blast a bit, but not too much. They Soul Blast a bit, but not too much. And they also get the Soul Charge from playing the prison in the first place, so I personally quite like it. Then we got a Grade 2 Grapple External that literally says it's now the Nova Grapple New Era, so it's the new age of Nova Grapplers apparently. And this guy says he gets plus 5k if you have an opponent's card in your prison when he attacks. So 15k swinger. So far we have like consistent 15k attackers now, which is also really good. I think numbers was one thing that the deck was lacking from the start deck from when I actually tried to playtest it. And so it's nice that now there's some cards that we can actually take out and actually put in more of these consistent attackers. Like the Grade 2 that you play in the ride deck honestly feels like it's going to go down to one copy that you just want to ride, and then you want to play something like this more so because it's 15k as an attacker. And the Grade 2 doesn't like put anything in the prison either when she's on the rearguard circle. She's just like a 12k attacker. So I think that honestly, you know, even cards like this is a common, this already feels better. And then we've finally found out what the other triple rares will be like, because so far we've only been seeing triple rares as completely new ride lines, like entirely new ride focuses, whether it's Barrow Magnus or Orfist, etc. Now we got the second Keter Sanctuary triple rare, which is a Grade 3 supporting Bastion. So this guy, Olden, he has a rearguard circle effect, which is when placed, you Counter Blast 2 and Soul Blast 1, which is pretty heavy, to call a card from your hand to rearguard circle, and if you call the Grade 3, you draw 2. So this is pretty nice because it's kind of similar to the order that's in the start deck that Counter Blast 2 to draw 2 basically, but it's a body on the board. You know, using an order to draw 2, you're kind of minusing 1 from hand to draw 2, so it's a +1. This goes on the field and you draw, which is really nice. On top of that, it's basically the same cost. And that's not it, because he also has the effect that when he attacks on rearguard circle, if you have 3 or more Grade 3s on your board, then he gets plus 5k power. Now that might not seem like much, but keep in mind, he has plus 2k from Bastion, plus 5k from himself. That's 20k, 8k boost in the back, 28. That's already asking for more than just one 15k to, you know, shield. Therefore, you're continuously making these big columns, and this card adds to that win con, which is for Keter just basically play a bunch of big dudes, power them up, and make sure that your opponent runs out of shield as quickly as possible once you reach turn 3, because you're not doing as much on earlier turns outside of like top deck calling and like swinging with them and stuff like that. So I quite like that this is the other direction they're taking triple rares into. So, you know, some of them will be the actual boss units, and that is also very nice. But then some cards are like this. They're perfect support cards for the start deck. They don't replace what's in the start deck. If anything, they're just complementary. And I can see it happening that, like, you know, outside of the Arena Valiente, I guess, it seems like for Dark States or for Brandt Gate, I wouldn't be surprised if it's like a Grade 2 or a Grade 1 or a Grade 3 for that matter, that just works to support the main win con, whether it's like a soul charging card or extra power card for Dark States, or just something that procs off of things going into prison for Brandt Gate, things like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case, and I think that I really like this sort of design space that they're exploring with the triple rares as well. Like, they do feel like staples, really important cards for those specific archetypes, but it's also not necessarily like a card that you want to be playing in the other Keter Sanctuary build either. So this reveal was really important because it told us the direction that the triple rares will be going in, and I think that that's very important. Then there's a rare Grade 3 as well for Keter, which says, this one is Dark Strange Dragon. If you have 3 or more Grade 3 units while he's on rearguard circle, you Soul Blast 2, and all your Grade 3s get boost. I like this as well because it makes your power columns be even huger. Is huger even a word? I think it might be. But it's nice. I mean, it's nothing super special, but that's enough because we only had to think one card that got boost on rearguard circle so far, like to boost Grade 3s, or was it the Grade 2 from the ride line? I'm not too sure. I don't remember exactly now, but even then, this is pretty good because now you can go even more crazy with your Grade 3 lineups and basically just like put down a field of like 6 Grade 3s and just go crazy with it. Although you do have to Soul Blast 2 every turn for this, which isn't super hot, but it might be worth exploring. Then for whatever reason, Keter Sanctuary got a removal order. So this one is Soul Blast 1 Grade 3, and it is a Grade 3 order as well. So you Soul Blast the Grade 3, so after you've Persona ridden at least once, you basically get that condition. You choose an opponent's rearguard, and your opponent puts all the rearguards in the same column as that unit on the bottom of their deck in any order. So this is basically like, you know, Chrono Jet's skill, but for an entire column for a Soul Blast 1. This feels pretty damn good because until now, this entire deck has been just about powering up and like, you know, overpowering your opponent by just like swinging face with big attacks and restanding them with like the Ashura Kaiser-esque skill. Now you also get some removal. This is actually really, really nice, and it just came out of nowhere as well. So it's hard to predict exactly what these decks will get into their arsenal. And again, this can be run in any Keter Sanctuary deck. It doesn't have to be just Bastion, because any deck will want to be riding grade 3s, right? Because you want to be doing your persona right. So you can run this in Hexa Orb as well and just like have control of your opponent's field, you know, even more so than what you already had. Then we got a new Nectar looking unit and the first double rare I think that's been revealed so far, which is Stoicheia Spurring Maiden Elenia. When she's called to rearguard circle from hand specifically, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, and choose a grade 2 or less card from your drop, call it to rearguard circle and gets plus 5k power until end of turn. This is basically Captain Nightmist from early on in the V series that continued to be used for a very long time. There are a few restrictions. Keep in mind that Stoicheia does call from the top of the deck, so that will not trigger her, so you have to be careful about that. And it is a revival card, but it also costs Soul Blast 1, which Stoicheia has been struggling with a fair bit as well in that, you know, the actual Magnolia build. But other than that, she's a pretty cool card. Feels like she's already... I've heard from people testing Magnolia that this card makes the whole deck insanely good, because, I mean, of course, you can get away with some crazy early rush, and also, like, discarding key pieces for your ride blinds, or for your ride deck, rather, and then reviving them. So this is pretty cool. Magnolia also doesn't play more than any... like, doesn't play any other grade 3s outside of herself, so it's like, you might as well just, you know, revive basically anything at this point. And it's also perfectly fine in the Zorga deck as well. You know, the Zorga deck is more of a Grand Blue focused deck, and this kind of does a Grand Blue mechanic as well in itself, so I don't see why not. You know, it's actually a pretty cool card. We got this grade 1 bug thing, Admantis, and so it's just when placed on rearguard circle, give another rearguard plus 5k. This one I definitely feel like it's a skip on, and then they finally showed us another Blitz order, which is also for Stoicheia, which I personally like a lot, and the effect itself is very cool, but the cost feels a little bit too much and probably won't be used as much. This one says it's a Blitz order with grade 2, so counterblast 2 to play it, and then you choose one of your opponent's Vanguards, and for that battle, so it has to be used in the battle that your opponent's Vanguard attack, the unit loses 1 crit. So if your opponent doesn't check a crit, it's basically a PG, basically, but I mean, if they check even 1 crit, suddenly it's doing damage again, right? I really like that they're exploring that space of Blitz orders that reduce critical. I might have even honestly asked for it at this point because I really do like these kind of cards, but Counterblast 2 feels a little bit too heavy. You know, it's just like you already have other cards you want to be counterblasting for, and you'd rather counterblast 1 for a +1 rather than counterblast 2 to reduce crit. I don't know, it just feels a little bit weird. This could become good in a deck that doesn't really counterblast as much, but overall it's a common, so I would like to see this on an order, maybe with like a bit of a less cost, but it's a really cool thing they're exploring. They're exploring so many different things that they haven't been seen before in Vanguard, and I'm happy to see it. And then of course today we got some nice Brandt Gate reveals for the prison as well. So we got an actual robot, man, looks like an actual transformer, honestly. Even have the little car behind him, which is probably where he transformed from. And this guy is a double rare for Brandt Gate, and he says rearguard circle once per turn, counterblast 1, soul blast 1, choose an opponent's rearguard, imprison it, and if 3 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your jail, draw 1. So this feels like a staple for Brandt Gate, absolutely. Counterblasting 1, soul blasting 1, again, is not really a big cost, and being able to imprison something and draw, I said this before, I want to see more draw effects, more ways to go through your deck, and this is just like the other grade 1 from Brandt Gate, which basically gets to, you know, draw extra cards. Like that other grade 1 literally is just draw an extra card for counterblast 1, soul blast 1, I believe. This one is jail stuff and also draw 1, but you still want to run that other grade 1 because she's in your ride deck because she searches your jail. So you're probably going to be running both, maybe not both at 4, but still it's very, very nice. And this card feels like a perfect shoe-in into the deck. Does so much, like counterblast 1, soul blast 1 to, you know, basically grab something from your opponent's side of the field and also draw 1 on your side to find more copies of the Persona Ride or whatever. Feels really, really good. And then Gordog Dragon, or whatever he is actually called, this kaiju looking rare for Brandt Gate, says when discarded from hand during your turn, if you have a set order in your order zone, counterblast 1 and call this card to rearguard circle. So if we ever get battle phase discarding, this is a Ribble. If you don't know what a Ribble is, that is basically a Gear Chronicle card that when discarded calls itself out and is able to attack. So if you discard this during your battle phase, you get to call it out. We don't have a way to do that yet, but there might be in the future, who knows. For now, what's cool about this is that you can discard this for your ride deck, and then after you ride from your ride deck, you can actually use it to call it out. So you ended up not discarding anything for your ride deck, you just counterblasted 1 instead, which is really nice, and you got a unit on the board for it as well. So again, cool design. I wonder how much they're going to explore, like a discard build for Brandt Gate, or if it's just supposed to be a card that you use purely for the ride deck. in which case it might be a little bit limited, but maybe in premium it'll be a bit more abusable. All right, now we're all caught up to today's stuff. Before we actually go into the cards from today, there's actually quite a few other things to talk about that Bushiroad announced. First things first, for Zero, of course, they announced the final Link Joker set, Infinite Rebirth, is going to be coming out, and of course has Grappler Phantom, has Glendios, Draconic Overlord the Rebirth, as well as Monarch Sanctuary Alfred. So this will be the final set for the Link Joker season before we go to Legion in May. And they also said that I think as of tomorrow evening, we're actually going to have the Yu and Megumi skins already live in Zero to be exchanged for, and you can also open packs to exchange for them, whether in this set or the next set that comes out April 1st. And I think they mentioned way back in January that other characters will be coming as skins in Zero as well, which is nice. I'm looking forward to the Tomari Supremacy coming through very soon. Before we continue the card talk, Bushiroad hyped up this stream with like a big project announcement, which a lot of us had different hopes for. I personally jokingly was like, oh, it's a Cup Ramen collab, you know, or something like that. Some people thought it might be the Shaman King collab that they did with like the one promo card. Some people thought it was going to be a brand new like PC game or a console game for Vanguard, but actually it was that they created a website for the lore. So now you can look through all the lore of the cards for the ride lines, as well as like the manga that will come out for the lore and like the novels that will come out for the lore. You can read a lot of it online. So they made a website for it, which is story.cf-vanguard.com. So there'll be a link here that you can take a look at everything and basically go through it yourself. I know a lot of people do miss the lore quite a lot, you know, from way back when like before the V series, every card that got released like would often get lore either in the monthly Bushiroad or with card of the day. Honestly, sometimes they would give it as well. And they also talked about future plans for the lore as well. I'm not super invested in the lore myself. I do like it when I get told about it, but I don't go out of my way like looking for it too much. So this is definitely something cool though for the people that do love the lore. Now, the thing that I found to be a pretty big deal that for now feels like more of a Japan only thing, but hopefully gets more explored in the West as well, which is the event support system. So they're making a Vanguard event support system, which is basically gonna be like a system that's gonna restart from April of 2021. And what this means is that until now, they have supported people's events. Like when people make events, they've supported like tournaments. For example, they'll retweet tournaments, they'll help out with like prizing, etc. But now they're not only doing tournaments for overdress standard, they're of course also doing tournaments for premium and vmium, you know, the legacy formats, but they're also supporting events called like offkai. So I've gone to quite a few offkai myself back when I lived in Japan, and an offkai is basically like an offline meeting. So you meet with a bunch of people that you met online and just like hang out. Sometimes you play like some party games together, or there's like an objective. I went to some Vanguard offkai where like it would be like a Vanguard tournament, but not really a tournament. You just have like different challenges to do, or like, you know, you have to play against a certain amount of people, and like, you know, you exchange like name cards and stuff like that. It's basically meant to make people socialize. And so now they're also gonna be supporting events for people that just like the anime. And I've talked about this before, but I've been to some events like the stand-up convention in Tokyo, where basically people get together over their love of Vanguard, and half the people there don't even play the TCG. They watch the anime, they cosplay, they make manga, they make all kinds of goodies, and it's just people that get together because they love the franchise. And so now they're going to be supporting more events like that as well, that just like people who love the anime or love the characters or love whatever want to get together and just discuss. And so they're going to be supporting those kind of events more so as well. On top of that, they're launching the Vanguard fan circles, which is so a sakuru, a circle in Japan basically means a club. So when you're in university, you often join a circle, so like a badminton circle or like a Pokemon circle or a Yu-Gi-Oh circle. The university I went to didn't have a Vanguard circle, but they did have like a Pokemon VGC battling circle. So like one of my senpais that graduated before me, he told me like, yeah, I used to be like with like the Pokemon battling circle and stuff like that. And of course there's circles for like political debating or just going out drinking or whatever. So circles are basically clubs, can be both in school, can be in university, can be in work as well, but they're basically making it so that from April onwards, you can either create Vanguard circles, and these can be about anything as long as it has to do with Vanguard. So they give examples, people that get together about the anime, people that love characters, people that want to talk about cards, people that love Dragon Empire, like circles about anything as long as it's related to Vanguard. And Bushiroad will put that on their platform, and then you'll be able to search for them and join them, and then basically like join those groups and interact with people from that circle. So we could, for example, probably make like an overseas Vanguard player circle, or Tomari Enjoyer Circle, like, you know, random stuff like that. The crazy thing is that they're also going to be supporting those circles, like the big ones, where like the leader of the circle wants to do like a big event, like let's say a tournament or an offline meeting, and they need some tournament support, or they need some kind of like support from Bushiroad to actually run the event. Bushiroad is willing to like both monetarily support and just like promote and everything the events of these bigger circles as well, or not necessarily bigger circles, but just in general. Bushiroad said they will support these circles to help kind of just grow Vanguard as a whole. And this feels like a massive thing because they're really passionately like growing the community aspect of Vanguard with overdress here coming in. And I'm really glad they've taken such a strong approach about it too. Like I said, a lot of this probably won't even like come through into the West whatsoever, but it's a cool thing that they're doing in Japan. So, I mean, if anything, once I eventually move back to Japan, there's something to look forward to. Another thing they talked about was this thing called like Cheer Drive, which is basically, I had to look at an article about this, which is, at first I thought it was like an Uber-like thing, but it's actually not. It's basically a thing where people can register. So you guys might know what an itasha is. An itasha is a car that has a bunch of like stickers and like graffiti on it, like pimped out car, but usually like with a certain theme. So often there's like anime itasha or like Toho itasha. There's a cool channel like called Noriyaro where like once he like streamed going to like an itasha convention in Odaiba. And so basically how this works is that it's not exactly itasha, but you register with this like cheer drive thing, and companies can put up advertisements that you then print out as stickers, put on your car, and then for the mileage you spend driving around in your car with that company's advertisements on them, you get paid. So you basically turn your car into a billboard for that company. And Vanguard, of course, is getting on that, and you can actually print out like overdress promotion, slap it on your car, and just drive around promoting overdress, and you'll get paid by Bushiroad for that. And so there's other companies that are doing it as well. I had to like look into an entire article about this, but it's pretty interesting, and you know, props to them for like trying out something different. All right, now let's get back to the cards. I wanted to kind of like squeeze that into the middle before we look at the actual hype of today. And man, I've been recording for ages already, so let's try to go through this a bit more quickly. So we got the Dragon Empire second like ride line, as well as the Brandt Gate one. So let's look at the Dragon Empire one first. Starter is Bart, so does the same thing as usual, so I won't even show it. Just if you know, you ride over it if you're going second, draw a card. Then the grade 1 Nigel, Gunning of Dust Storm. When you ride over him with Randar or Randall, you soul charge 1, so that already tells us that it's going to be a soul charge or like soul base deck. And then his other skill, the grade 1s, is when your opponent's rearguard is retired during your main phase, count on +1, retire this unit, and choose one of your opponent's rearguards and retire it. So essentially it's like you kill itself and count on +1 to kill something else, so it doesn't really like, it barely breaks even, but there's a reason why it does that, and we'll talk about that in a second. The grade 2 Randor says when you ride over him with heavy artillery of Dust Storm Eugene, you draw a card, which is very nice, and then choose up to 1 card from your drop zone and put it into your soul. So again, more soul setting up. We're getting to why that's all happening. And then Vanguard Rearguard Circle ability, when he attacks, if your opponent has 2 or less rearguards, you can almost +1 to soul charge 1. It's a bit and then he gets +5k until end of that battle. So again, these +5ks are nice because 8k boost behind it, 23k column, yada yada yada. You know where I'm going with this. I should probably do a video just talking about like essentials of like field building, you know, because I'm going to keep talking about how important it's going to be going forward to make 23k, 28k, etc. columns, because that's how you win games. You just push out as much shield out of your opponent's hand. So this card is like count +1, soul charge 1, and get power. Feels kind of but there's a huge payoff to all that soul charging, which is of course the grade 3 Heavy Artillery of Dust Storm Eugene. Vanguard Circle once per turn, rest 2 of your rear guards, and then choose an opponent's rear guard and retire it, and gets +10k power until the end of that turn. So you can, for example, rest that grade 1 that we just saw earlier and retire something, and then he can actually use his skill to count +1, retire himself, to then retire another thing. Because he's already resting, so you won't be actually boosting with him anymore, so that's actually pretty cool. And because that grade 1 skill is an act, you can, or an auto rather, you can basically just like rush with it early and then move it back and then retire it for its own cost. I actually quite like that. However, the second skill of this guy is Vanguard Circle once per turn. If your opponent's rearguard was retired this turn at any point, you Soul Blast 5, and if you do, you look at the same number of cards from the top of your deck as the number of your opponent's open rearguard circles. Then you choose any number of units cards from among them, call them to rearguard circle, and put the rest into your soul. This is a huge payoff because now you basically get to, you know, pop something with this skill, pop something with a grade 1. We saw that order way back, like last week, which I said, like, you know, it scales counterblast 1 for each card you retire. You can, for example, use that to like burst their entire field open, and then you soul blast 5 and just basically then, you know, fill up your board. There's also an example video that Bushiroad put on their Twitter that I'll leave a link in the description for, and if I forget, then please remind me in the comments. And it's really, really nice because this is a huge plus that you get out of popping your opponent's stuff. It's a really interesting playstyle. The aesthetic is also like fairly nice. I'm not super sold on it, but it's definitely a really cool playstyle because you basically get to pop your opponent's stuff, and then the more you pop their stuff, the more you get to plus. Of course, like soul blasting 5 when your opponent has like still like 3 things on the board is like, soul blast 5 to call 2 is like, not as great of a payoff. So you're probably going to be trying to like find the right timing to refill your board with this effect, or see how much soul you're making in that game. And of course, we have quite a few other retire cards in Dragon Empire already that we've seen in previous weeks, so chances are there might be a lot of cards that support this archetype without us even having really paid attention to them that much already. Anyway, now let's take a look at my actual hype, which was the second Brandt Gate deck, which feels to be Cardinal, I guess is kind of the archetype, is because every card has Cardinal in its name. So the starter is Cardinal Fang Fovi. When this unit is rode upon, if you win second, draw a card, same as always, but I love the art already. It's super Daisuke Izuka and it's absolutely amazing. He has like a heart on his tail. He's got those Link Joker aesthetics. Everything about it looks really, really good. And then this is where the confusion starts. And for this one, you really will want to watch the video in the description on how this one is played after you hear about the effects. So Cardinal Noid Rutis. When you ride him, search your deck for up to 1 world card. So Sekai card. So world card, reveal it, put it into your hand and shuffle your deck. So of course, everyone saw this, was like, world, what is world? I thought we were just searching prisons, but now we're searching worlds? That's insane. Let's get to that one in a bit. Then rearguard circle. During the battle, this unit attacked or boosted. If your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 2k. And we're like, Dark Knight? What is going on over here? And of course, the order that they showed is Hollowing Moonlit Night, which is a grade 2 set order, but it says set order / world. I have no idea how they're going to fit this into an English text box because we don't have the, you know, the freedom of kanji being very small. But what does Hollowing Moonlit Night actually do? So it's a set order, and to play it, you have to soul blast 1, which is pretty cheap actually. It's a grade 2, so you can only play it on turn 2. Order zone. If your order zone only has world cards, the following effects are active according to the number of cards in your order zone. If you have 1 card in your order zone, your world becomes Dark Knight, so it's treated as a Dark Knight. And then if you have 2 or more cards in your order zone, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So the night evolves and it gets darker and darker, and I guess that brings out certain characters as well. But basically, we need to understand about this. Also, I don't think if I even said this, but when you play this in the order zone, you get to draw a card, which is the nice thing because you can play, like, every time you play this, it converts into another card draw. So you basically turn a dead shield order into a shield in your hand, you know, from just playing this. But this immediately feels super xenophobic because now you're basically choosing if you play prisons or if you play worlds, because worlds say that if you have, you know, if you have non-world set orders, which the prisons are not, you cannot activate those effects. They will never be treated as like a Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight or whatever. So then you're thinking, what is the payoff of all this? Like the grade 1 sure gains like 2k power, but surely there's more to it, right? Well, the grade 2, Cardinal Noid Cubicia, says Vanguard Circle, when a world is put into your order zone, choose one of your units and it gets power plus 5k until end of turn. And then Rearguard Circle, during your turn, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 5k. Right? Abyssal Dark Knight sounds so edgy, I love it. But I like how he's also like, his name is like Cubicia, and we've seen these like cubes, right? Normally in like Starvaders, you have like the rings, but now they drop the rings and they have cubes all around them instead. Like, pay attention to the art, you'll see the cubes everywhere. The grade 1 felt like it looked like Photon, this one looks like Radon, and basically you ride him, and then you use the grade 2 order, and then you give something else 5k, whether it's himself or whatever. And so that's all right, it's like, okay, so you play these order cards, these world orders, to turn into a Dark Knight, and then it suddenly like powers up your stuff. Okay, that's cool. But they showed us another one, which this one is called In the Darkness Nobody Knows. It's a grade 3 order, and this one is when to play, you soul blast 1. When this one is put into the order zone, you choose the opponent's front row, rearguard, and retire it. So you get a bit of popping at least. The first one draws, this one retires. I like the one that draws a bit more. And then in the order zone, it has the exact same effect. If your orders only has world cards, the following effects are active according to the number of cards in your order zone. 1 card, your world becomes Dark Knight. 2 or more cards, your world becomes Abyssal Dark Knight. So I saw this already, and I was already thinking like, what could the grade 3 have? And I was like, it's going to be a Glendios. It's going to be like, oh my god, you have like 10 or more worlds in your order zone, you win the game. And while it isn't that, I want to keep that thought alive for a while because this could easily be something that they go into in the future. Just turn this deck into like an alternate win con. That could potentially happen, and I think that would be really cool and fitting for how Link Jokery this theme looks already. But of course, let's take a look at the grade 3, which is Cardinal Deus Orfist. Already I can tell you this is probably my favorite art so far that we've seen in overdress. Like, it looks so sick. Daisuke Izuka kills it every single time. He somehow managed to take a chaos concept and turn it into lean and mean and absolutely ridiculously looking and just absolutely fantastic. I cannot get enough of this guy. But what does he do? During your turn, if your world is Dark Knight or Abyssal Dark Knight, this unit gets power plus 5k. So he is already an 18k beater, which we've talked about before. Extra beaters are always important because they help us reach those, you know, magic power numbers. And so he's an 18k column on his own. Keep that in mind for what we're going to talk about next. But then, if your world is Abyssal Dark Knight, so if you have 2 worlds in play, you can counterblast 2 to call up to 3 Shadow Army tokens to rearguard circle. And then it says, your world changes when you play a specific order, and Shadow Army has power 15k and boost. And so quickly, here's what a Shadow Army token looks like. It's a grade 1 with 15k power and boost. Of course, they can attack as well, but they are token units that stick to the board, so your opponent has to like retire them to get rid of them. Otherwise, next turn you can just counterblast 2 again and make 3 again. But Orfist being an 18k attacker, this being 15k, that's already a 33k column that you can make with a bunch of Orfist, or a 30k column that you can make with like 2 Shadow Armies and the grade 2 another Shadow Army, which is pretty tight. Now, the one thing that it had me thinking about this was that in the jail deck, you can search a prison by just writing the grade 1, and you only need 1 prison. Here, you need 2 of the set orders, and writing the grade 1 only searches 1. That's why I think the double rare for this build will probably search for 1, because I feel like otherwise you're just gonna have to draw into 1. You're gonna have so many extra draw effects in this deck to be able to actually find it, and it's gonna be just really hard to actually hit that before like turn 4 or something. And it feels like this deck is built to be the sort of big beater deck. Now, they gave it extra power as well with that with the order that we saw earlier, right? The Soul Blast 1 give Vanguard plus 10k, and it doesn't really feel like that does that much with this deck. Like, sure, it's a big beater deck, which I think is still, you know, fine. It's got a little bit of that DP feeling in it, but to me, it's not really a DP feeling if it doesn't have an extra crit on it, because DP is all about the hit pressure, right? It's about the pressure that if they take this, they might lose, but if they guard it, they have to drop a lot or drop their PG or something. This is like just big. Everything is just big. The tokens are 15k, and sure, you can make like 30k plus attacks on everything that is hard to guard. But please, like, throw a crit in there somewhere, or like some kind of guard restrict. I think that would make it feel a bit better. But overall, I love this. It's so damn cool. It's absolutely fantastic. Like, while it might not be the most intense playstyle so far, I love the art so much that I'm willing to just like sit here and wait and see what they reveal for it. And I really pray that they add a little bit more onto that, and it's not just like 3 big beaters, right? Because for now it's like it's 3 big beaters that can go from turn 3, which is kind of what Dragon Empire can do as well. But you just have to like play a lot of setup. Like, you have to fill your deck full of these like orders that now you need to like draw into, and then like, you know, you set them, and it's like, sure, you Soul Blast 1 you draw, you Soul Blast 1 you retire. It's really, really great. But I hope there's more of a payoff going forward, although having 15ks that you just spawn for Counter Blast 2 is pretty cool as well. And the final thing, this video is already super long, so I don't want to take too long here beyond this. They announced the key visual and some details on the second set for overdress. So it's gonna be releasing in Japan on June 26th. I do not remember what the expected release date was for the English release, but we see a new Verena on the cover card, and this looks to be a sort of water-infused Verena. And some people said the grade 2 Verena is like fire, the new Verena Valiente in the booster set is like thunder, this one's water. We might be going the entire elemental chain, so we're gonna get earth at some point, darkness, light, all those kind of things. Those would be pretty cool. And the important 2 things that they mentioned. First things first, there's going to be DSRs in this set as well, and this time the DSRs will be Bastion as well as Bruce. So they're going to be the starter deck cards, but, you know, basically just redone arts, you know, different artworks drawn by Clamp, where it's going to be like Danji and Bruce together, and then like Toya and Bastion together. And so that's really cool. But for me, the very important detail that they mentioned was that Mano Takumi, the new host of the show, said that there will be 2 new ride lines. Period. Just 2 new ride lines. So that means that 2 lucky nations out of the 5 will receive yet another ride line. And I, at first, you know, people, myself included, misheard that and thought 2 new ride lines per nation, but it's not the case. Just 2 new ride lines, and every single deck from the past booster set and the starter decks will also be supported. So there's going to be new support cards for stuff from the start deck, for stuff like Orfist and things like that, which is really cool, right? Because you can keep evolving those decks and growing them while also potentially looking at other things that they're introducing every set, and that might just be the pace going forward, like 2 new decks every set while supporting the old stuff. And I think once we get to like sets 4, 5, 6, of course they might not be able to fit supporting everything as they keep introducing new stuff. So I wonder what the pace will be going forward, but for now, like 2 new decks every 2 months on top of the existing decks, I think is a pretty good pace overall. So I'm pretty happy about that. Oof, all right, that's it. We're gonna have to do this again tomorrow, but tomorrow's gonna be way less to talk about. It's gonna be just like maybe overdress anime first impressions with a spoiler warning, plus whatever like the Dark States overtrigger is, plus the Bruce support card that they reveal. So yeah, it's gonna be a lot shorter and not as time consuming. I might introduce or like include the Zero reveals that I do tomorrow into tomorrow's video as well, so we'll see. I already had some stuff planned for tomorrow, but I guess I can kind of push that up a little bit, and it gives me more time to work on those videos as well. But anyway, that's it. I try to include both news and also my own opinion here and there. I'm personally quite excited about everything as usual. I really wish the stuff that they announced at the start, like the big project, like, you know, with the event support and everything, kind of gets into the global side as well, especially for, you know, for those of us like, you know, myself now, we do organize like online events, right, for like remote fight. So it would be nice if Bushiroad could support those too officially, you know, basically just like, whether it's like prizes or, you know, whatever at this point, even free deck boxes or you know, they're just like cheap plastic ones. It doesn't really matter. It's still something. But yeah, overall, I think the reveals are quite cool. Brandt Gate, it feels so good to be playing Brandt Gate. Like, I'm so glad that this is the nation I decided to main. I was never disappointed for believing in Stargate, so now even after transforming, it's still feeling great. The art is still top notch and the deck feels super cool as well. From the looks of it, I think I'll be building more or less everything from the first set, and I'm going to see how I do in the future because updating everything is going to be pretty expensive. So we'll see how we do, but of course it would be nice to play as much as possible. There are some builds that don't interest me as much for now, but I might do some early playtesting already this Friday with everything that gets revealed throughout this week. So then that way, maybe like when we approach the release date of the set, I can start talking about like my first impressions of certain things and stuff like that. But anyway, this video is long enough already. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Check out the stuff in the description, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for more information that we get from tomorrow's stream. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye bye.